What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another great week on Common Sense, the podcast. Bear with me. Zuck kind of caused us a little issues, and we're having to, reinvent the wheel here to get things going. But we're here nonetheless. So this week, you guys always ask for multifamily people. So I brought one of my favorite people that, I love to see at events and at networking things. So y'all welcome Robin Rucker.
Hi.
How's it going?
I'm great.
Yeah?
So grateful to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. People in our industry love watching this stuff, and I get so many questions, but it's so funny. So many people in our industry are scared shitless to be in front of the camera. It's hilarious. I knew you would not be. I was awesome sauce is going to come in here rolling.
Well, and you know this about me. Everything's sauce, right? I love my sauce. It's either awesome sauce or sexy sauce, because sauce just gets in all the crevices and makes everything taste better. So I'm grateful to be here.
Yeah. So now we're ready to roll. So for those that do not know who Robin Rucker is, give us a little 2-minute spiel, or tell us a little bit about Robin Rucker, where you're from, what your background is, what you do.
Okay, perfect. Well, I have been around a while in interior design, but new to multifamily, which is exciting. And I am a coach's daughter. You and I've talked about this multiple times. So grew up in West Texas, and whether my father was winning or losing, we were moving, right? But it made it a lot of fun because I met a lot of different people. We always had young men around my kitchen table that were different ethnicities, different walks of life. So I always grew up with a lot of men in my world. And, it made me, I think, a unique young lady.
Yeah.
And so, I'm the mother of 2 young men now. I think that was a God thing that, he gave me 2 fabulous athletes. So that was great. They are grown now, one married, one a senior in college. I have been married 30 years, which I'm extremely proud of.
Wow, congratulations. That's awesome. My wife and I just had our 10-year last year. 30 years, that's awesome.
It really is. It's quite the tenure. So, I like to tell people what makes me unique is that I have been loved since I hit the planet. I mean, I had amazing parents, a great upbringing, in West Texas with football, graduating high school in East Texas, ending up at Texas Tech. Did not meet my husband there. From what I understand, if I had met him in college, we would not have hooked up. That was what I've been told. But
my wife and I are the exact same way. We knew each other, but if we'd actually started dating at that point in our lives,
it wouldn't have worked.
It would not have worked for sure. That would not have been a good mix. But you're the typical Friday Night Lights here.
Absolutely. And you know what? I still love it. I actually just did an interior for Fort Worth Christian, and they invited me to be a speaker at their first opening game, home game. Super excited to be back under the Friday Night Lights and enjoying some football. Yeah, that's
awesome. Well, before we get too far in it, that was awesome, by the way. Nailed that. Everybody always wants to know what we're smoking and what we're drinking. And I know you and I will probably get down all kinds of multifamily rabbit holes today. So I want to get this out of the way real quick and early, because our hardcore connoisseurs of spirits and cigars are going to hammer us. So
important.
Yeah. So Robin is not a big cigar smoker, but wanted to go give it a try and see what she thought about it. So
it actually smells great in here.
Yeah, I love this
ambiance.
Yeah. So what we are both smoking is the Atabey Sabios by Nelson Alfonso. This is one of my favorite go-tos. This is well balanced. It's well aged. Hopefully it works with your palate, since you are a new developing palate.
You know what? I like to try new things, and thanks for coaching me. You had to coach me a little bit on how to light it, but I think I'm going to remember next time, and I'm grateful.
Yeah, you're going to be set now down the road. Now, I do have a gift for you. Well, it's kind of for you.
Okay.
It's for you to give your husband, because I know we talked about him possibly coming and watching the show, but we didn't want him messing up your flow and all that, and you said he does enjoy a good cigar. So these are 3 cigars that I think he will enjoy.
Thank you.
So
So thoughtful of you. Thank
Gift
you.
from the show.
I think he will love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And, he deserves this. I don't know if you can already tell, but, I'm a lot. So this will be good.
30 years, man. We're giving you props.
So this is great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Perfect.
And then as far as what we're drinking.
Oops, thank you, sir.
She is drinking a Basil Hayden's Old Fashioned.
Which is amazing.
She's a fan of already, which our boy Ben made for her. Ben is an amazing bartender here at Industrial Cigars, so you have that. And I am drinking a E.H. Taylor Neat. Single barrel, I believe. So
Nice.
now you have it. That's what we're drinking. That's what we're smoking. And now we just get to have fun. So.
Good. Well, props to Ben.
Yeah, Ben's great at it. Way better than Jacob. I hope Jacob's listening to this.
Oh, wow.
And we'll give Jacob some hell.
Poor Jacob.
Poor Jacob. It was his birthday last week, and I haven't even got to harass him yet. But,
it's coming.
What better time than now on the podcast?
It's coming, I can tell.
Yeah, for sure. So, how did you get into... So, you are the CEO of Freedom Furniture and Design.
Correct.
How did you get into this business? What took you from being the sports guru, coach's daughter, to interior design and furniture?
It makes no sense, right? Well, like many of us, the career found me. I thought I would be a dance major. That's a whole different route we can go later. But I had some amazing mentors.
Yeah.
And very early in my college career, had someone pull me aside. I just felt a little lost. And I think a lot of young people do. I mean, to have to choose what your destination for life is going to be at 17 or 18 years old is pretty heavy. So I had a mentor pull me aside, and she said, "Hey, Robin, what have you been good at all your life? I mean, look back on your life and what have you been good at?" And I remember my mother telling me really early, "Robin, you have always had the eye." And what she meant by that is I could walk into a room and tell you really quickly what was wrong with the room, what you could do to fix the room, and what would really make it special.
Yeah.
And so it took me a little while to get there. I was a sophomore in college. So, I had to really pivot. I was at Baylor University at the time. They did not have an accredited interior design program. I love the Baylor Bears, great people. But at the time I researched, ended up at Texas Tech University with an incredible program and great professors who really saw something in me and really invested. And what I mean by that is not just class time. Would take me to museums. I was a West Texas kid. I didn't have a lot of sophistication, right? So I might have had the eye, but I hadn't been to Europe. I didn't know what, really fabulous architects, and I had never been to Chicago. They schooled me on not only great design, but what do people need in space, and what makes it special.
Okay. Did you get to go to any of those places you just rattled off?
Absolutely. So I've spent some time in Europe, spent some time in Chicago. The great thing about being in our industry, and just to kind of fast forward a little bit, when I graduated, there were no interior design jobs. And what I mean by that, it was the recession. You can do the math probably by figuring out my age, but early 90s were not kind to creatives. And so I took a sales job. And so, selling furniture. They taught me great sales skills while I was going to graduate school. That's when I met my husband. And at that time, when you were in sales, they did what were called incentive trips. So you could win great trips. So I spent some time in Europe.
What parts of Europe?
Mostly Italy, Monte Carlo. At the casino there, a few stories.
The places I haven't been yet.
Oh,
I went to Spain and...
Okay, I haven't been there. I won an incentive trip there to Barcelona, but I didn't get to go because I was pregnant with my second son.
All right. Well, your husband needs to take you, or you take your husband, however that works.
Jeff, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Because
Jeff, you need
Barcelona.
to do this. You're going to get hammered on what I called Spanish Kool-Aid, which is sangria. It tastes way better than any sangria you've ever had anywhere around here. And the architecture.
That's what I've heard.
I mean, when you realize a building you're looking at is 1,000 years old, and still standing. Like my construction brain kicks in and I'm like,
wow,
we can't, so Sagrada de Familia, that's
I studied it, but not
being built for
very different going in person,
almost
right?
200 years. That's been being built. And you go in and you see these columns where like the stone matches perfectly going all the way up. And like, they've got these like twisting columns. And it's like, wait a minute, they've been adding on and building onto this and they're like still matching this shit. Like we can't match granite or quartz when like a slab breaks in an apartment.
What's up with that?
Like, we can't do this, but like a building that's being built for 200 years, they can make it all flow and go seamlessly. Like you have like that kind of mastery over your masons and everything else. Like it's incredible.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And I have a very talented designer who works for me, a young designer, and she just got back from there and she said the same thing. So,
I mean,
okay, it's on the list.
You
it's
have
done.
to do that. Like my wife and I, again, my wife is very well traveled. She was very fortunate growing up that she got to see a lot of amazing places. And she even like after high school got to backpack Europe for like,
okay,
I don't know,
we definitely need to have
months.
dinner because that sounds like a great
Yeah, you
story.
guys would get along great. Like she got to backpack and then she also studied abroad in Spain while she was going through college. So like she's got to see a lot of amazing stuff. Like
she's a cosmopolitan gal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we've always got
sure.
to like talk about like, I'm like, well, I really want to see Rome. And she's like, well, if we go to Rome, you have to go to this place and this place. And like, really, we need 2 weeks because we need to hit all this.
I
in
have to agree with her on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
What's cool about Rome, though, is just like you said, the antiquities and the architecture. But you're like getting a Coke at McDonald's. No ice, mind you, because it's Europe. You know that, right?
Paper
and then you
straws.
turn the corner and you're like, oh, it's the Acropolis. You know, I mean, you're like, what?
Yeah.
So odd, but very cool.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say is I love to travel and it's great. And, but it's also very cool to come home and be an American. I mean, when we were in Monte Carlo, this is just a great story, just briefly, but my husband has amazing luck. And we were in the Grand Casino. And, you know, if you go to the Grand Casino, you got to wear the tuxedo, the whole James Bond thing. You're dressed to the nines. And he hit a jackpot, and I hit a jackpot right next to him, which is insane.
Sarah, are you listening to this? Like, why does this not work for us? Like, my wife is like the antichrist of gambling. Like, if she's with me, we are not winning.
It's not good?
No, it's not good.
Okay,
So maybe you guys can rub off on us.
Dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll just kind of, we'll put some mojo on the gambling because I live with a group of winners. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But Monte Carlo, you have to be kind of reserved. It's very buttoned up there as far as gambling. And so as Americans, if something like that happens, what do? You're like, woo! We're tearing it up and they're looking at us like, okay, who let these people in? Mm-hmm. But, we took our winnings and left and had a great night. But it was fun.
That's awesome. I mean, Monte Carlo is one of the places I really want to go.
It's
One,
pristine.
I want to see F1 racing there. Two, I want to see the casino. My father-in-law's told amazing stories of when he was there. There's even an old Polaroid of him in front of some really iconic cars, and they're decked out in their suits. And like, I'm going to say, like, I'll be nice and say the 80s. And they're like all in front of these like supercars in front of the casino in Monte Carlo. And
hey, cool place. Cool decade.
Yeah.
I mean, 80s, come on.
Yeah, I mean,
let's talk about the 80s.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a segue, but
yeah. I mean, I've got the
decade.
father-in-law that will tell you literally like Vegas was cooler when the mob actually had control of Vegas. Like Vegas actually took care of you then. Like they were like more friendly. There was more benefits.
More hospitality.
There was more comps. Like all of that stuff. So I love hearing his stories of traveling the world because he was born in Jordan, raised in Lebanon, and then came to the U.S. I mean, like my father-in-law.
He has a true appreciation, probably.
Yeah,
right?
like my father-in-law has amazing stories and is one of my favorite people to sit down and have a conversation with. period, end of story. But
I love that.
I want to go to more of these places and see these. But like, I'm like, yeah, I want to go to Mykonos. And my wife's like, well, if we go to Italy, like, no, that really needs to be a different trip. And I'm like, you're killing me. Like, can we, like, all right, like, let's just plan one of these and like make one of these happen. I don't care how much shit I get to see, but I want to see some of this.
Well, you know what's cool is traveling does make you better at your job. I mean, just experiencing different cultures.
I think it makes you better at life.
You know, it makes you a better person.
Yeah.
Right? There's an appreciation. I mean, people love their children everywhere. You know, and we're all more the same than we are different. But understanding people and culture, I think, is that tapestry we're all striving for, that tapestry of life we're trying to weave, you know.
Absolutely. What have been some of the most inspiring places you've traveled to for you in your field? Like, what's really inspired you?
Wow, that is a difficult question. I've been really blessed to travel quite a bit.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have to say Italy is unique.
Italy.
Just like you said, the masonry, the detail, you know, sitting in Venice and sketching, you know, at St. Mark's Square, and really appreciating that how many people have come before you, how many creatives that have sat there before you have.
Da Vinci,
and just
Michelangelo.
The history of all that, right?
Well, I need to look you up then, because I'm going next October to Venice.
It is.
Whoa. You're what?
Mark Vines, I'm shooting his wedding in Venice.
Where was my invite? You need like an extra
Bro,
hand.
I'm still working on him to make sure my wife is my +1 when I'm going, so they're very budget conscious. But
sorry, Cool Beans. I think he needs some technical assistance on this trip, and I mean, I might need to be there. So
You might need to do a little construction research while we're there.
Well, that will be our 30-year wedding anniversary gift to her.
Happy anniversary.
Well, that's next year. Next year.
Yeah, but
no,
that's a big
no.
one.
I'm sorry. 28, because we're 27 this year. 28th year anniversary.
Wow,
You just motivated me, but yeah,
happy anniversary.
early.
Yeah.
Super early. But yeah, so Venice is like, Italy has been on my bucket. I've been all over the world, and I've never been to Italy.
Okay, you know what's great about Italy is that they do speak English for the most part, but when they don't, they love Americans. They're extremely warm, very hospitable. Everything they say about food is true.
It's really small portions, and you'll be hungry if you're American.
Let me tell you something. It's an event. I mean, you're there for 4 hours. Don't get ready to leave anytime soon because they're going to continue to serve you. But the great thing about Venice is that there is no traffic. It's almost a spiritual experience because everybody's on the water. And I'll never remember, I remember this well, tiny little corridors, you know, getting to your hotel because everything's ancient there. And I remember waking up and hearing the bells and thinking, what is that? And I threw open our shutters, not a window, the shutters. And there was a nun praying right across from me in a chapel. And it was almost like going back in time.
Surreal.
Have you ever had a moment like that where it's almost a pause? And so whenever I try to relax, and you know this as a business owner, sometimes at night you're reworking the day, like what could I have done better? What could I have done different? How do I improve? What can I do tomorrow? Worried about my people. And then I'll think, okay.
Oh, you mean like business owners don't just have it all made in the shade and like everything's just like a breeze?
It's so different than I thought it was going to be. That's a different subject, but we'll come back to that because that's important.
Oh, we'll be back on that.
But what I will say is when I think about a time when I want to relax, I do go to Venice. And I'm flying over Venice and the canals.
The smells bother you?
The smell and the sound. You know, when I went in May, it was not... You really need to go early.
Yeah, don't go in the heat of summer.
There are certain times, right?
Yeah.
So I found it lovely, and I found the people just very engaging, and there's something about it that felt very spiritual to me, and I loved it.
Okay, so while we're here, I love something on your profile that it's like, it's kind of like your motto, and I saw this across your social medias. And I want to talk about why this is important to you and why you chose these statements.
Okay.
So it says, walk with the Lord, speak with integrity, speak with intensity, give with generosity, succeed with humility, love with heart, and live with gusto.
Yes.
Where did this come from? How did this become your kind of like mantra? Like, is this the coach's daughter thing? Like, where did this come from? And like, why are these statements so important to you?
Wow, what a great question. Gino, first of all, thank you for honoring me by reading that, because that is who I am to a core, and it's serve with intensity.
Yeah.
First and foremost, Christ is the center of who I am. And, I don't know if anybody else watching has watched The Chosen, but it really changed who I am as a person. I think we're all chosen when we're children of the Lord. And I serve a higher purpose than the almighty dollar,
Yeah.
And so when I go to work every day, it's more about, how do I serve my clients? How do I serve my employees? How do I serve with intensity? And that has served me well. But, you can do the math probably, by looking at my profile, my 50 plus years, that is who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And the Lord is still working on me every day. I make a lot of mistakes, I'm a sinner saved by grace, So, I'm a person, and I think at the end of the day, I want to be a good person. And, really the person that I see, Jesus Christ, he is the person, right?
How do you balance your faith with being a CEO and like
it's a good
putting that out
question.
there? Because like I've seen a lot of stuff over the weekend, and
Yeah.
I personally had to make a decision over the weekend between, it's like, I think that's what's really lacking. Like, I hate this like influencer shit.
Yeah.
Like, I think influencer stuff is like the biggest joke garbage in the world. Like, who could, like, if you really put it into like, you used your words properly, who wants to be influenced? Do you really want to be influenced? No, you want to hear somebody being real that you can relate to.
Well, that's not authentic.
Yeah, no, it's not at all. Like, you want to hear from leaders in whatever aspect of life. You don't really want to hear from an quote unquote influencer.
Right.
So you start seeing all this stuff. I mean, like, we won't get into the political climate, but, like just with the Olympics this weekend, with that opening ceremony.
Sure.
And
it's difficult.
It's difficult. And I saw a lot of people in our industry going to war on Facebook.
I saw it too. You and I probably follow a lot of the same people.
I mean,
ouch.
for sure.
Can we just say ouch?
Yeah.
Ouch.
Like I'm going,
ouch.
Whoo, you stepped off pretty hardcore. And I made a statement that I did edit for the record, because I know somebody in the DMs is going to like blow me up on this. Yes, I did edit my post because of a couple of messages I started getting back that I could clearly see my statement was being taken wrong. So we all make mistakes, but like I didn't make a mistake. Just what I was trying to say, I didn't use the word. I said I could see both sides of the story. That did not mean that I agreed with both sides of the story. Same way as like you asked me earlier about, has this been good for business? And I said yes and no, because some people cannot look past my guest. They may assume that I have the same opinion as my guest just because I'm not combative with them, or maybe I didn't challenge them to the extreme on something that they said. That's not my nature.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a lot of friends that died for our country, for us to have these freedoms, for freedom of speech, the right to have, all these, great things we have in America. So when someone starts challenging that, it's like, there is my buddy Jay Redmond said this best. And I told him this weekend, I was like, I wish I'd have added that little bit you added onto your post about, yes, he said, I fought and got wounded in war for you to have these freedoms. But I also fought so that you could express whatever side of the fence you were on. And But there is also a line. When people cross this line, there is a line that can be crossed. And I totally resonated with that and understood that, because what I was saying was, people, yes, I heard the LGBTQ community all coming out and going, this was, the Greek Olympic, blah, 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 blah. And it was a reenactment of this party. Okay, well, my personal opinion, newsflash, epic failure, because whoever did that let transgender people mock the Last Supper to the point that they even issued an apology and did all these things. So this went absolutely crazy.
It was tough. It was a tough week. Can we just say it was a tough week?
It was a tough week for sure.
Such a tough week. And one thing I love about you and why I agreed to come on is your authenticity and your unapologetic truthfulness.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's a huge compliment.
And you and I've talked about this. I think when you walk into a room, it's pretty easy to identify. I see that person. There's a light around that person. I want to go meet them and connect. And you and I connected very quickly. I think at the end of the day, you just have to be real and you have to be authentic. And you asked the question, as, a president and chief design officer of a company, I have people who work for me who are Muslim, who are Hindu, who are gay. And you know what? I love them. Yeah. Because my Lord and Savior loves me. Yeah. And he has challenged me to love everybody where they are at the moment. We don't have to always agree, but that's American. I mean, come on.
Sure,
That's why we established America, because, we left a country where we had to be, right?
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of history. And let's face it, why did we leave? Persecution. We're not supposed to persecute each other for our beliefs. We're supposed to love each other.
You can agree to disagree and still like each other. We can agree to disagree
and be friends and hang out and have a great time and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And respect each other's religious beliefs and respect, where you come from. And, I think at the end of the day, we've kind of lost that.
We've absolutely lost that.
And that breaks my heart, because just, as a red-blooded American girl, that's what makes us special, right?
Yeah.
And unique.
I think so.
And I think that's what makes our industry unique. What I love about it, we did that apartment association mixer where everybody came in and you kind of talked about you had your elevator speech, kind of talked about your business. Can we do business together?
Yeah.
There has not been one person in the apartment association or in our industry that I have not really enjoyed talking to. Not yet.
Yeah.
And so what I think kind of makes us unique is there is a lot of diversity of thought, and there's a lot of coming together. But you know what? At the end of the day, what we do is important.
How do you do that though? You just kind of gave us the quick synopsis of when we met at the mixer, but how do you approach? Because I look at a lot of these things. You can go to networking events that are amazing. Yeah. You can go to networking events that suck. We've all been to both. Yeah, straight out. I'm not calling anybody out, but we've all been to things that were great.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's what effort did you put into it?
Yeah.
But when you walk into one of those things as a CEO, what are you looking for? What resonates with you? How do you decide who you're going to go talk to? Because I watch a lot of the guys in the industry, and I feel like I'm back at the 7th grade dance where I watch a bunch of guys
I love that.
Stand on the wall, and they're I'm going to wait for the girl to come ask me because I don't want to dance. Yeah. And a lot of that's, it is what it is, But how do you approach that, and how do you look at that when you're doing one of those things?
Wow, nobody has ever asked me that. You're such a great
thank you. I appreciate it.
You ask good questions. It's interesting. My dad really loved people. He was a coach, and he always brought out the best in people. So I always just kind of scan the room and go, okay, who here looks interesting? Who looks different than me? And who can I learn something from?
That is y'all write that down, like jot that down, like the things she just said, like that's how when she first walks into the room, she analyzes the room, and that's what she's breaking it down by. Continue, please.
And I will say, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, the shiniest penny. I have an amazing network. That is my superpower. And I read a book early in my career, Bob Bodine, shout out to Bob, who wrote a book called The Power of Who, which is based on the disciples, a little bit. It's loosely based on, everyone you need to know to be successful, you already know. And I think when you go to those events, instead of thinking about what can I get from this event or what can I get out of talking to this person, it's more about what can I give to you. You asked me to be on your podcast. Mm-hmm. Of course, that's a gift to me, but that's a gift to you. It's like, what can I do for you today to bless you? To make your life a little easier, right?
And we had several conversations because you're, lo and behold, at your facility, you were making a podcast room or made a podcast room, and you were like, hey, please come look at this and tell me. Can
you help me?
Yeah, can you help me too?
Help me?
We found a common ground of like, hey, like, we were introduced by Susan.
Who's awesome.
She's
awesome sauce.
Totally awesome.
Totally awesome sauce, right?
She's very awesome. She's one of my favorite people. And she introduced us and and we started talking about the podcast. Like neither of us knew what either one did. And we started talking and you were like, hey, like, I would love to have you like come tell me like what you would want in this room. Like if you were going to do your podcast here, what would you want? And I'm like, I'm honored. Like I would love to come in and say like out of 2 years of doing this, like, I'd love to have a green screen here where we could like do whatever. These things are important. This is not important. Like focus on these things. And then you same thing. And like we just started vibing and talking from there.
Right. And I appreciate you helping me get better at my craft.
Yeah.
And hopefully this is helping you get better at your craft. I mean, we're all put on the planet for a reason.
Absolutely.
And I have the incredible gift of getting to do what I love and what I was put on this planet to do every day. I mean, I'm in flow every day. And if you have not seen the podcast or, the TED Talk on flow, it's awesome. But, I'm in flow every day. I get to create space. The power of space is very important to me. And so, you gifting me with allowing me to have an opportunity to get better at my craft is a gift. And, if you're doing business with someone who is creating space, who doesn't have a space of their own and is not investing in space, that is a red flag to me. I mean, that to me, when I bought the company, and Diana was kind enough, Diana Beck-Levine, who's been in the business many, many years and actually chose me to, and we'll talk about that later, chose me to take the torch and run with it. We talked about it, and the space that we're in is as important as the space that I'm creating for you. So we have basically really invested, huge investment in a space with not only amazing technology that really conveys our concepts, ideas, and our creativity, but we actually put in a beautiful room that is a clubhouse room that you would find in a multifamily establishment. So the goal is to say, okay, if you had the perfect clubhouse room, what would it look like? What does your connection cafe look like? What does that mean to you? How does it enhance your property so that you really can attract a lifestyle renter, someone who may want to live there for a decade? What is it that makes that space special? So it's almost like a lab, and a research. And so when I came to you, and what you don't know is I kind of pointed to you. She goes, who do you want to meet? And I said, that guy, because you have just a great energy and a great vibe.
Oh, thank you.
And I didn't even know that you did a podcast.
Yeah.
You didn't even know that I just put in a podcast room.
Divine works.
And so, what we're seeing that people are wanting in multifamily, that is their home.
Yeah.
What's going to make it a home? You need a place that you can go and work and co-work, get away from your dog, get away from your kids, really have a great co-working environment. But you want the lighting like you have here to be great. You want the acoustics to be good. Not only is a podcast room, but it's a Zoom room. Or, it's a Teams room, so you can have your meetings. Yeah. You can look your best, feel your best. you feel like you've really done your best work, you haven't gone far from home, but we've made that podcast room a destination in that space.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I'm super excited to come see this. Like, Biz and I got to get this on our schedule to come see and like
Let's
really
film.
look at
Let's
this.
film.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
let's do it.
all right, and you're involved in so much stuff like these missions and giving and charities and stuff like that. Where do you find all the time to do this? Like, you know, for somebody that's like jumping in this, like, I mean, you're a mother of two boys, you know, you have a family life balance, your career, all these other things you're into, charity and all this stuff. Like, I think work-life balance, that term is complete crap. Like, because like there is no balance.
There is no balance. Something's got to give.
Yeah.
Right? There's only so many hours in the day.
So how do you manage all of that to like make sure like you weren't slacking at home? Like, I mean, you obviously have proven with a 30-year marriage that like you balance things pretty well. But I'm sure, you know, Jeff.
He's a saint. That's
Yeah,
pretty much what he does. He's pretty much a
Jeff.
saint.
Like, did he think that you balance this all the time? Like, you made a 30-year marriage continuously work while becoming CEO of a huge company, and also being a mom and everything else that you're asked to be. How did you find any sort of balance there, or was there ever any balance?
I have to agree with you. I don't think there ever was. I think I still look back at being a parent, and being a parent was probably the best thing I've ever done. I mean, creating people, come on. Creating space is hard, but creating people, I mean, that's, you know, come on.
Fair enough.
Look, they're amazing young men, and they are young men. They're 22 and 25, but they're amazing people despite the mistakes I made. I mean, my oldest still says, I was the last person picked up from football. But you know what? I was still picking him up from football. So, you know what I have to say is I had amazing mentors, amazing bosses. I mean, this is the first time I've ever been my own boss. I worked for a GL company, a company called OFS before, where they encouraged you to have a family and they encouraged you to have a life. And I would like to think that I was mentored by some of the best, so that when now I have my own company, you know, I encourage you to go take your dog to the vet if your dog is your baby. You know, if your mom passes away and you just need some time, you know, take the time. I mean, people make companies. Companies don't make people.
Absolutely.
You know, and so what I will say is that authenticity that you and I saw in one another, I found in others and companies that really invested in me and allowed me to be a person, you know? And what that means is, you know, yeah, Jeff is amazing. He usually has supper cooked when I get home. I clean up, you know? And we haven't really talked about this. It's not, you know, he hasn't had an amazing career. You know, he is an executive with Accenture, a very high profile executive that really consults companies on change management.
Yeah.
And so he's got a career of his own. You know, we just really tried to respect one another, and hopefully when he had a deal coming, I didn't, you know, there were a couple times when we both had deals, and
when you're both in sales, that's rough.
You know, it's tough. But, you know, I think we were just, it's like the Bible says, iron sharpens iron, you know? I mean, I think we're in a...
My older brother is loving that right now. That's like part of his mantra with his jiu-jitsu gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and so I think adversity and, you know, iron sharpening iron, you know, forges a stronger bond. You know, ouchie.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm good for at least one of these to show. At least it wasn't all over my white shirt.
You got it done there. It's good.
So how do you walk into a room? Because I've watched you do this at places where you walk into a room and you're in analytical mode and you're analyzing the room of like, is this a good fit for what this is? Like, I mean, I'm sure you did it when you walked in here. And
you can't turn it off. It's the OCD. I'm sorry, but yeah.
But how do you match that And what do you think has given you the ability to do that with people? Because I feel like the amount of time I've known you, I feel like you're really good at reading people. You're really good at like kind of stepping back and just observing and you take the time to do that. And you're like, all right, I walked into this room, like, who do I need to talk to? Whose room is this? And how does that transition when you're doing that with clients? Because that's got to be a very integral part of your business. When you walk into a space that maybe is done, but they're looking to revamp, or maybe it's a blank canvas and you're now given the, task of going, okay, I got to understand the people, what they envision this room as, what they want it to be, and does that align with the vibe they're giving me? How do you do that? Like, where does that secret sauce come in? Like, how do you do that? How do you balance that? You're gonna make
me give away my secret recipe, aren't you?
I'm trying.
Here on the podcast.
I'm trying.
Wow, great question. What I will say is that space has a personality, just like a person has a personality.
Yeah.
And either you like it or you don't. It's pretty cut and dry. But what I think my gift is that differs me from maybe, I'll say my competition, but also, just people in general, is it's pretty easy for me to dissect a space and really do some therapy on it. Okay.
Yeah.
So what you and I talked about before we started the podcast is, are we on brand? What is your brand? And I don't mean that from, like we said earlier, an influencer perspective. What I mean is does a space feel authentic?
Yeah.
How does it relate to the people in space? Because really an interior is about how it serves those who are in it at the end of the day. And, our clients that we share, many times it's about an investment, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
If you're investing in a property, you care about the property and the people in it. That is their home.
Yeah.
So how does that space relate to the people who live there? What is going to give them some pride of ownership? And when I say that, and you touched on it a little bit earlier, I'm so proud of Freedom Furniture and Design because we really do have the freedom to enjoy, not only what we do and how we serve others through design, but we really give people beautiful spaces regardless of their budget. Okay, so we do a lot for Catholic charities. We've done several homeless. I just feel like everybody deserves a space that makes them feel comfortable and makes them feel proud to be there. Some pride of ownership, whether you own that space or not. And that goes with all of the spaces that you actually are in, whether that's your apartment, whether that's the clubhouse, whether it's the Zoom room, podcast room, whether it's the Connection Cafe.
Tell me you're OCD without telling me you're OCD.
Exactly. And whether it's the social hub, how does that space from the inside out relate to the person, the core of that person?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually very passionate about it. I could probably talk about it all day.
This might be an interesting question because, like, my wife's a realtor, by the way. So, like, construction, real estate, like, we've got that kind of vibe.
People are very passionate about their homes, by the way.
Yeah. So how does that work with you and Jeff? Like, and Jeff's like, I want my man cave. Like, how have you done this, like, even at home to balance two young men, your husband, and your designs and your ideas? I mean, I'm sure when people come to your house, you want this to be like, I want you to know that I'm an interior designer, like, and I want you to feel this, and I want you to feel my vibe. How have you balanced that with 3 other men in your house?
Okay, amazing question. I hope I have a good answer. Mm-hmm. And this is a little therapy for any of the women watching.
And Jeff, please comment if you're watching this. I saw you joined up on YouTube, so please comment. We'd love to get some feedback here too.
Well, here's what I will say. One of the most lovely compliments we ever received in our home came from one of my son's friends whose parents were going through a divorce. Tough times for any kid.
Yeah.
He spent a lot of time at our house. You know, we just didn't ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, here's a key.
Gave him a safe space.
Here's a key. You can stay when you want to stay. We fed him if he needed to be fed.
Yeah.
And he was sitting at our table one time. He just kind of looked around and he goes, you know, I feel so much at home here. And our home felt good because it was filled with love, not because it was filled with stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. But what I will say is, you know, I didn't fluff the pillows all the time. I had to give that up. I leave that at work.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I come home and it needs to feel like Jeff. I see Jeff as a client. Jeff is a West Texas guy. If you come to, and I'm a West Texas gal, but you know, that high level of design, you're not going to come to my home and see a super contemporary space, which I really enjoy. It's going to feel like Jeff.
Yeah.
Because Jeff is the head of our household and it feels like Jeff. The upstairs feels like my boys, you know, there's a gaming room. There's a sauna upstairs. We put one of those infrared saunas in.
Nice.
In a workout room. So, you know, you can feel all the college athletes up there. You can hear them clang, 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 clang.
You can smell the testosterone when you walk in.
But, you know, if you came to my home and you had to describe it, I would say it's spaghetti Western because, you know, it has warm tones. It still has some things we collected from our travels, you know, from Tuscany and different areas. But the upstairs has a lot of Western art. You know, my husband's aunt was an artist, a Western artist. So, you know, there's a lot of eclectic pieces and collected pieces that if you come to my home, and I hope you will, as my guest,
love to.
You're gonna go, okay, this feels like the Ruckers if you know us.
Yeah.
But it's not just Robin. And that's what I love about what I do. When I design a space, it shouldn't be on brand for me. It's got to be on brand for you.
Yeah.
There's the difference.
That's so hard. Like, the only example I can think of that comes to mind in this is, sorry, honey, I'm going to throw you under the bus here. My wife lost her wedding ring, which was a custom.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah.
You're not joking.
I'm not joking. Like,
okay,
this is
my
a
heart
true
just
story.
leapt in my chest.
True story. And
Wow,
it's probably
I'm so sorry.
lost in our house. Like, we might find it. We spent 3 months looking for it. We might find it down the road. But, you know, like, I took a custom wedding ring and I was like, I like this, but I don't like this. Can you do this with that? And they were like, yeah, we can do that. Like, no one's ever asked us to do that, but like, we'll do that. So like,
it was unique and special.
yeah, so it was a neat, unique,
and on brand.
Yeah, from the beginning.
Yeah.
And it was kind of one of those things, like, because I told the guy, like, even back then, like, man, I do not want my wife walking, and, you know, and you're talking, like, she's in her, like, mid-20s at this point, and when we were getting married, and I was like, all her friends are getting married and stuff, like, I was like, I don't want her going to some party or anything, and, like, they both go to show the ring, and it's like, oh, you got that from Jared. You know, like, I know, or like, same ring. Like, no. Like,
Kudos
I can't
to
do
you,
that.
Friend.
Like, even on my limited budget back then, I was like, you still have to make this unique. Like,
to her, because
to
she's
her.
unique.
Be like, yeah, and I don't want her to ever feel like that. Like, that would suck to me. Like, that is like the ultimate suck on that. Like, you walk in and you're like proud and you're showing off something and like, oh my God, we have this. Nope, not ever happening. So now, like, I had the challenge of recreating this. And I ended up with like their top designer. Shout out to Diamonds Direct. Like, every piece of jewelry I have ever bought my wife comes from there. And Matthew Clement, awesome dude. If you guys need anything in that department, go see my dude Matthew Clement at Diamonds Direct. Like,
Go,
free
Matthew.
Shout out. Like, this dude
Make sure Jeff's listening to you.
slayed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he slayed it. Like, we went back for weeks, maybe even months on this design. I had like the owner of the like actual ring company that makes the stuff for Diamonds Direct, and his number one, I don't know what you call that person that actually a lathe or I don't know,
The
like
person who actually puts
the
the ring
person
together.
who actually puts the ring together,
craftsperson.
the craftsman that does that. And they're like, how did you come up with this design? I was like, I didn't. I tweaked this from this and they built this for me. Now I'm cool that you want to like make it your own a little bit, but like 98% of this needs to look like this. Like, do this. And like, she just got it the other day and she's like absolutely floored when she saw, like, we kind of still hit that out of the park, but like, it's finding that. And like, sometimes like being able to communicate that, like, I'm sure you found in your side of the world, like, I used to hate the word, what, come talk to my designer because we're going to do this office renovation. And I'm like, and the engineers and the architects will be there. I'm like, is anybody going to be on the same page? Because like, and I never understood this with some designers that like, they want to tell them like, you know, they come to you very openly and honestly, and they say, we have a $500,000 budget for this space. And you go, okay, I'm going to create that for you. I feel like, even though we have not worked on one of these projects, you are the type of person that's now going to like reach out to your team and your network and go, okay, this is what I envision for this space. Is this within the budget? But not all designers do that. They go, oh yeah, this is what we're going to do. And then by the time they come to us, me on the GC side, and we bid it out and they're like, well, holy shit, this is way over budget. What are we trimming? And then you get the battles between designer, architect, engineer, and GC. Like, what do you do in your field to eliminate that and still deliver the client the product that, because you get probably the best look at what they actually want, what they see in them that they want in that space.
That vision, absolutely. And, you know, I think that what makes our team great at what they do, and I have an amazing team.
Yeah.
I give them all the credit. But what we do extremely well is, you know, it's on brand, on time, and on budget. That latter is no less important than the foremost, right? So vision is great, but it's only good design if you can build it. Mm-hmm. So to your point, back to the power of who, of course I'm going to call you, or I'm going to call someone, and I'm going to go, okay, we're all going to stack hands here. And, you know, the odds are something's not going to be available in the time frame we need to get it done. Well, like so back to the on time.
Yeah, you and I were talking about this just like a day or two ago where we were like, wallpaper. Wallpaper has gotten super popular again.
Right.
And you're like, oh my God, do you have a good wallpaper person?
I can't find anybody to hang any wallpaper.
Right. And I'm like, yeah, I actually have that guy or that company to pull into my team. And we start conversing like that, like, all right, because like, if you find out like, yeah, I love this and I have this great vision. I found this wallpaper that's perfect, but there's no one to install it, or it doesn't meet the timeline. That doesn't work.
Or it doesn't meet the budget. And so what I'm really proud of and what I'm really proud of with our team is on budget is huge. I think anybody can have vision if the budget is unlimited, you know? But how do we take that budget and work it back to the vision? Yeah. I mean, there's two ways you can look at it. And look, there is nothing wrong with a Ralph Lauren design space. Yeah. Like when you walk into Ralph Lauren's space, it looks like Ralph Lauren.
Or Burberry. You know, like that pattern.
Right. And I mean, I love Gensler. I've got great people who work there, but a lot of times, you know, you're in a Gensler space, right? It's very Gensler-esque. Love it. Nothing wrong with it. Love it. I mean, I adore that design style. But at the end of the day, you and I have a client, okay? And is it on brand for them? Yeah. I don't want them to walk in and go, this is a Freedom Furniture and Design space, or this is a space that was designed by Robin Rucker. I want them to walk in and go, I feel so at home here. I would like to rent my home here. And I'm willing to pay more for this space because it feels like me. Yeah. It's my brand. That, to me, is the biggest compliment anybody could ever give me, is that we have so many people come into our space and go, this just feels like me. So to get it there, we all have to stack hands. You know, it's a team effort. It's a team sport. Yeah. You know, and you know what? To your point, I think maybe my secret sauce is that I do treat everything like a sport. You know, really what is my position? What is my role on the team? How do we get the ball across the line, right? How do we all get there together? And that, it takes a team. I'm not there to be like the shining star of the team. I'm there to get the ball across the line. What do we need to do to win?
Yeah, and if you walk in on Monday and XYZ needs to be done and you see it, I feel like you're not the leader that comes in and goes, why isn't this done? You would just do it and then ask, like, down the road, like, why didn't this happen? Like,
I had to laugh. The reason I laughed is we had clients coming in and we didn't have the cleaning crew. We're in a new space. I said, I'm going to scrub the potties. And they said, we have people who can do that. I said, well, it's my turn to scrub the potty today. It'll be your turn to scrub the potty tomorrow. I mean, whatever we have to do to get the job done, we're going to work together.
That's leadership right there. And I think that's so much of what is missed. Like, people miss the point of leadership so much because it's like so many people feel entitled once they get to that leadership role that, like, and that's why I think people love the podcast and love a lot of this stuff, because they get to hear that side of it. Like, they're not above picking, I'm not, like, if it really comes down to it, like, and like, we're so slammed that, like, I've got all my estimators like out looking at stuff like, all right, cool. Like, now this other one came in and, like, I'm not going to just push them off. Like, all right, cool. Like, I got to go out and I'm going to be estimating this. Like, we're that busy right now. Like, go do it. Like,
you do
take
what's
care
necessary.
Of it. You do what, as a leader, you do whatever is necessary to make it happen.
Servant leadership. It might be overused.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe a servant is an adjective that might be overused. But you know what I love about just my career is I've had such an incredible example of what servant leadership looks like, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not only Christ was a great servant leader, but, I've worked for Bobby Lutz with GL Seaman. I've had the privilege of that. And he's an amazing guy, great servant. And I've worked for, buying the business from Diana Beck Levine, who I see opening boxes, working through art on an installation, really doing exactly what our delivery people are doing. Diana's doing the same thing. So I've seen what that looks like. I hope that I take that to heart.
Yeah.
And I do that as well. But I've just had really good examples of what servant leadership looks like.
How have you built the relationships with the mentors? You've talked about how important mentorship is to you. And I think a lot of people get really hung up on finding a mentor. How do I find them? What is the ask? And so forth. Because, like, I know personally, I battled and struggled for years. And even still to this day, like, this is something I have to put in perspective all the time. What is my passion and what is my purpose?
I love that.
Like that, and that's hard.
And where they intersect is like that sweet spot.
And like, but everybody gets so dead set on finding that and having that, where you forget about the journey along the way. And that's really where I'm trying to take the podcast now, because I've realized, like, talking about it, me and my buddy Kenny Mitchell from Operation Yellow Tape, we had a great discussion about this last week. And it was like, we're not sharing that journey enough, because, like, even though both of us, in the eyes of a lot of people, have been more successful, neither of us feel that way. Both of us are still...
Isn't that interesting?
Right? We're still beating our heads against the wall.
Okay, let's just be honest. You mentioned it earlier, and I love your authenticity. We talked about this, that you still feel like you're in the 7th grade and you walk into a room and you're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I feel like that all the time. Can we just say that nobody's got it figured out? Like, we're just, we're still that person learning. And what I saw in you, and I hope you saw in me, is... I'm very passionately curious still.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm still that kid at heart where I am passionately curious about you and what you do.
Yeah.
How do I get better at what I do? What can I learn from you?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you're an expert, and that's why I wanted to talk to you. I know some people see me as an expert, and I love that, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
But I'm passionately curious about people and process and how do we get better. You know, I just, I think sometimes when you see someone who's got it all figured out, that's their persona. I mean, that's not real.
That's what I'm saying. Like
friend, that's not real.
So many people don't have those conversations though, and you don't get this. Like they don't get to see this reflection or us talking about the bad, the suck, the journey. Like that's where I get like so pissed off with this influencer stuff.
Yeah.
Because
We're
like
not perfect.
you can go rent a Lambo.
Yeah.
You can go pay money and get the jet.
Yeah.
You can go rent the watch. You can borrow the watch. You can and you put it out there on social media like, I got it all figured out and shit.
You know what
those people don't have shit figured out.
You know what I want to ask those people?
Yeah.
Did you make a difference in someone's life today? Mm-hmm. How did you make a difference? How did you make this a better place? You know?
I don't think they're doing it. I think it's all the show. That's why I love having people like you on my show where we can talk about these things because like how many days, all right, it's Thursday. How many days?
Is it? I forgot.
Yeah.
Is it Thursday?
It's Thursday.
How did that happen?
Yeah. How many days this week did you come into work and go, oh, how are we going to do this? Like, is today the day? Like, how many, I mean, like, but like, and you just said it a minute ago, like, we still don't have it figured out. Like, we both just said, like, I still, I made partner this year or last year.
Congratulations.
Like, yeah, thank you. But like, I still beat my head against the wall on a regular basis. Like, I'm not doing enough. Like, how can I do this better? What do I need to know?
Because, we closed a really big deal this week. I should be like, oh, yay. You know what? I came home and there were sour towels in the washing machine. Okay, so like all I could think is like, seriously, like I can't remember that I washed towels and left them in the washing machine. So, I just think that's a human condition.
Yeah, but like, so what's maybe some of the maybe give us one or two, what were some major like roadblocks or like really bad moments that like you had to deal with that maybe was a stepping stone that like once you like accepted that and you like took it on and you took the ownership of it and you dealt with it, like maybe was like a turning point for you. Like what was something you hit along the way or like sometime when someone told you like, you can't do that. And you were like, wait, no, I can. Yeah. Because I feel like I know Robin's had some of those moments where it was like, wait, I can't what? Like, hold my beer, watch this.
Great question. I have to choose one because there's so many.
I said one or two.
I'm going through I'm like, okay, wow, I'm going through the archives. Let me choose a good one.
Yeah.
There's so many. I've made so many mistakes. And, the great thing, I know people, it's so cliche, you learn more from your mistakes than you do your successes. But,
cool.
I mean, that's so true.
Can you say that again real quick?
You learn more from your mistakes than you do your successes.
Absolutely.
And that term Monday morning quarterbacking, came up a lot.
Yeah.
In my household. I
bet you can throw a mean spiral though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. Actually, I'm great at a fair. If you go to the carnival.
Yeah.
It's great because people underestimate me, and it's like it's right through the tire every time.
She's winning the biggest shit at the top, guaranteed.
For sure. And, when you've got
Poor
boys,
Jeff.
you got to play. Poor Jeff is a lot better. But, what I will say is I think when we are young, because we haven't really earned our stripes. You know what I mean by that? Like we haven't really, we don't have a lot of scars. We're trying to be like, I know what I'm doing. And I'll never forget my first job right out of college. I had a firm, I told you, put me in sales in San Antonio, Texas. And they were so lovely to me. John William Interior, shout out, I think I made $18.5, not a living wage, probably even then. I think I had to use my parents' gas card to go and get food. But I was so excited about the process of design, and I felt so sure of myself. And, I was meant to do this. I finally got a job in design. And so many of the people that I graduated with didn't get jobs in design because of the recession. And I was feeling blessed, but also probably feeling a little full of myself.
Yeah.
I graduated top of my class, and, I was outstanding senior in design. It's like, I don't know how to design some space. And had a senior designer who took me under her wing, and she said, "Hey, Robin, go out to these people's ranch. We're going to design their ranch." Now, in San Antonio, Texas, if you go out to a ranch, that's not like a ranch in West Texas where I grew up, where people grow cotton and have cows. This is a place where executives go to get away from the city, who have multi-million-dollar ranches, where they have exotic, species and things like that. First of all, I didn't know what it meant to have money like that. I didn't know what people like that wanted in space. I didn't realize that they were exactly like you and me. It doesn't matter how much you have to spend. You still want certain things, right? You want it to feel good. You want it to feel like you on brand. These are things I had not learned yet. So I came up with what I thought was, the Robin Rucker brand. It looks really good. And went and presented, did my best. They didn't like anything.
They told you no to everything.
Well, they just said, they were very polite.
Yeah. But you got told no.
But I got told no. And we got in the car. And you'll have to bleep this out, but
no, we don't.
Yeah.
We're good on
so
here.
my senior designer, who I was with, who was a lovely person, but really would cut she was hard, and it's why I'm good at what I do, because she's extremely hard. She said that was a shit show. She goes, I don't want you to ever go into a presentation again where you have not done your research and you do not understand your client. And at 21 years old, which I was very young for a college graduate.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, I am never going to be successful in this business. I remember just like trying not to cry. It was an hour and a half back to San Antonio from the ranch. And I remember thinking, my lip was quivering. I was trying so hard. And look, I'm a daddy's girl. My dad raised me with grit.
Yeah.
For me to cry in a business meeting, you're going to really have to hit me hard. And I felt like I'd been gut punched. And, I went home and I thought, I'm going to pack my stuff. I'm going to go home. And I remember calling my dad and my mom. And I said, I can't do this. I'm horrible. I'm not good. I thought I was good. I'm horrible. And I remember my dad going, Robin, you need to step back and you need to really analyze what you did wrong. And I think sometimes today it's really hard for young people. It's all about, well, they made me do this. And, no, this was on me. This was my mistake. This is what I did wrong. I needed to own that. And I remember going back in the next day, eating some humble pie and going, okay, you know what? I blew it. And here's what I think I learned. But more importantly, senior designer, what do you think I need to learn?
That's huge.
How
have you taught your sons that? Because, I feel like there's I don't have kids, but I feel like our generation, like our parents worked a certain way and did things a certain way. And then we didn't want our kids to do it that way. We wanted to give them everything so that they didn't have to experience what we experienced. But we created this whole other problem.
You talking about the snowflakes?
Any of that. We can go any way you want down that road. But I'm just saying, like, how do like a lot of the people, like, I'm a little opposite of you. I did not go to college. I went to the Navy. That didn't work out. Came back home, and I still didn't want to go to college because I had no clue what I wanted to do. And I refused to waste my family's money, even going to community college, when I was like, hindsight, I should have just gone and knocked out some basics if I'd have really understood that. And
but
and
look
then,
at you now.
Learned,
Don't need a piece of paper. Look at you now.
Yeah, but like you're looking at those things and you're analyzing these things. How did you do that with your kids then to teach them that, like, shit it? Because I watch all these kids where, like, I went and started in the mailroom at the insurance company and worked my way up.
Right.
And now I'm making really good money at 21, 22. And then I'm watching my friends come out of college now and they've got $200,000 in debt from college.
It's unfortunate.
And they expect this, like, I got a college degree, I should be making six figures. And they come out and, like, they can't even get the job.
No.
You're overeducated.
Right.
And, in the late 90s, early 2000s, you're overeducated. You have no experience. How many, like, I saw them, you have no real life experience. sorry, you don't qualify for this job. And I'm like, I got a high school diploma. I'm like 2 steps above this. Like I'm kind of laughing at them, at a certain point. Like these guys went to college and they can't get these jobs. How did you not let that happen for your kids and teach them that like this is earned and you have to like, there are no participation trophies. You're going to get some lumps and it's not just a throw in the towel thing. Because I hear this from you coming out of you, like, how did you instill that in your boys? Because I don't know your boys, but like, I can tell, like, I guarantee her boys have this.
Well, that's a lovely compliment. Thank you. I think we talked about it earlier. Raising them was the best thing I ever did, but it was the hardest thing I ever did. And I give Jeff a lot of credit. We have very different parenting styles.
Yeah.
So it was probably a pretty good, balance. I will say I would love to take credit for them, but I think they turned out great despite me. They're very decent people. Very accomplished. My youngest was Texas Christian Athlete of the Year. My oldest, I think, is the youngest person who's ever had a private office at his commercial real estate firm.
That's awesome.
You know what I asked him? I said, son, I'm so proud of you. How did that happen? He said, Mom, he goes, I'd like to say it was hard. He said, but I just came in early. I did what they asked me to do and more, and I stayed late. And I said, wow. I said, well, that's pretty amazing. He goes, no. He goes, you and Dad taught me that. And I said, wow. I said, I don't remember, making that part of the curriculum growing up in the Rucker family.
That wasn't intentional.
But it wasn't. It was an observation. So, it was an example.
It was a direct reflection of you and Jeff of how you...
It was an example that was set. And so I think work ethic is underestimated right now. I mean, you and I joked about this.
Yeah.
I do joke with my boys, and I always say, if you haven't figured out by doing the math, I'm a Gen Xer. It's the smallest, generation, but we're the bridge generation, right? I can still read a map, so if it goes down,
we can dial on a rotary phone.
I'm pretty good in a pinch. But, I always joke with my boys, and I say, look, I was raised drinking from a water hose and in a mosh pit. You have bottled water, and we're raised with safe space. We are not the same. But
I love that. I'm so glad you said that again. Because you said that when we were talking to her this week, and I was like, how can I make her say that again?
We're
that's
not the same. I mean, sometimes they come to me and I'm like, and the problem is what? Like, I don't see the problem as a problem, and a lot of my kids' friends, and I hate to say this, a lot of them are female, they're in therapy, and everybody's in therapy, and I'm like, I'm great. If you need therapy, go get it.
Yeah, please do.
But that is not a persistent, that's not a constant state of existence. Because if you talk about your problems, there's going to be more problems. I'm a big believer in working out your problems, but you're either in the problem or you're through the problem, but you're not living in the problem, And I think we raised our boys that way. It's like, okay, what is a problem? How do we fix it? How do we get better? How do we learn from it? How do we move on from it? We're not going to live in the problem, And look, I mean, Jeff was tough on my boys. He was not raised, he was raised, where if you didn't do things right, you might get beat. Okay, I mean, West Texas, farm boy, but he had that perfect balance between love and discipline. And I think particularly in a household where you've got a really strong dad, that dad really needs to discipline from the heart. And what I mean by that is, we'd come in good cop, bad cop. When the boys were in high school, I was a bad cop. It's like, do not tell me you're going somewhere and you're not going to be there. And I don't know if you know this trick yet, but listen to me, people, young people, parents of young people, they will put their phone in the mailbox. So if you track them, you think they're where they say they're going to be, and they're not. So learn that the hard way. But, at the end of the day, your children are just people, and they are unique. And the hardest thing for me was really to understand they are not a reflection on me.
They are, though.
But what I mean by that is it was more important to me that they were their own people and they felt good about who they were than them being who I wanted them to be. And that was a hard lesson as a parent for me to learn, that God created them unique and different, not as an extension of who I was or who Jeff was, but they are unique.
Yeah.
And, for them to find themselves and to have confidence. And one of the biggest compliments of actually a person in our industry, a commercial real estate person, told me, he goes, wow, your kids have such great confidence. They really know who they are. What an incredible compliment.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, that's really not a reflection on me. That's a reflection on them and how they came through, surviving the Rucker household and everything we threw at them. So, kudos to Reese and Ryan. Shout out. They're great people. And you know what? I learned from them. I learned from my son yesterday,
Yeah.
We had disagreement, and I was wrong. He was right. And I called him and said, listen, will you accept my apology? It's hard for a mom to call a grown married son and say, listen, and so, you know what? They make me a better person. Hopefully I made them a better person.
That is awesome. Like that, you just don't hear that. Like, you're involved, but you're not involved. Like you give them their space to grow and learn, but you still instilled you and Jeff instilled these things in them that where, like, by leading by example and how you guys did things, you showed them that, like, this still takes effort. Like, you're going to have bad days. You're going to have failures, but, like, you got to learn from these failures and be able to take that and do something with it. Like, that doesn't mean quit. Like, I love that you use the word grit. Like, and I love that you talked about in, like, your friend Dan something's book. Like, I wrote that down. Like, I'm going to order that. Like,
Bob Bodine, Power of Who. Yeah.
Bob
okay.
Bodine. I've got to, like, that's in my
Shout out to
list.
Bob.
I've got about 5 ahead of it, but
Yeah.
like, it's the same thing. Biz and I were talking about this earlier. My good friend Doug Cardoza, he kept talking about grit, and I forget what this lady's name is, but she wrote this book about grit. And I was like, I texted him the other day because I was going back doing some different research, and I was like, I want to know more about that grit thing you talked about on this show, because, like, that was an impactful moment for a friend of mine that has transcended through multiple industries and is a powerhouse. Like, Doug Cardoza is a badass. Like, it's like one of those things. Yeah. I was like, man, like, wait, so what was this impactful book on you? He's like, grit. You got to have grit.
I've heard of that. I've not read it, but now that's at the top of my list. So great. I'll get that on audio.
It's one of those things. So, where do I want to go with this? Like, there's just so many rabbit holes we can jump down. Like, what has been really impactful for you being involved in the multifamily? Like, how has multifamily, because we have a large audience that is our multifamily peers, how has multifamily shaped or changed the way you do things?
Are you talking about multifamily, the industry, or the people in multifamily that are in the industry?
You pick. Either one of those.
Wow.
Both of those are great questions. I'll let you pick which one comes to the forefront for you.
Well, for me, it's all about the power of who and people. And I will say, when I bought the company last year, and for those listening that don't know, Diana Beck Levine, lost her husband many years ago, really built Freedom Furniture and Design. And when she was looking for someone to purchase the company, she had several others interested. But when we met each other, it was very much like you and I met.
Yeah.
It was an instant connection. And I knew I was home. I don't know how to explain it any other way.
That's a great explanation.
And I was looking for next. And I think many people who come to a certain point in life, where you've had some successes, maybe you've had some failures, but you kind of do what I would call introspective, just a tally of who you are as a person, where are your gifts, where can you make the most difference? And you look at your career and you go, okay, is this aligned? And, working in corporate design and commercial furniture, I had a lot of success, and I'm really grateful for that. I had great mentors. We talked about that, great success. But I really there are two pivotal moments that led me to multifamily, and I don't want to digress too much. But one of them was, and you probably saw that I did some volunteer work for Vogel Alcove. I started a charity called Furniture for Kids, where we auctioned off furniture that designers built that went to homeless mothers and children. And here's what I discovered through that process, and it changed me to the core as a person. These women many times were fleeing domestic abuse, didn't have a place where they could put their children to bed at night and pray for them. And I don't want to get emotional, but this is America. You know, we're supposed to allow people a place where they're comfortable.
Yeah.
And where they can call home. To not have a home is not okay.
Yeah. Kudos to you. Like, that's huge.
And so at that moment, and I'm just going to go ahead and reveal it on your podcast.
Yeah.
I came up with something that I really want to start, and I need your help with, and our industry's help.
All right.
Called Table Matters, because I raised my boys across the dinner table where we prayed together, and we looked at each other in our eyes and said, you know, how was your day? These women are feeding their kids on a TV tray in front of the television.
Yeah.
And in a hotel room. They don't have a place where they can, you know, really that they can call home and they can raise a family. And I think that goes for a lot of people in the United States right now. I think if we could just provide a table where families could sit around and have the conversations like you and I are having, you know, a table matters.
Yeah.
You know, table matters.
Big brother,
and
big
so
sister things
I came up with that, and it keeps, you know, I do feel like the Lord lays that on my heart all the time. I haven't done anything with it, but I will say that, you know, when I was talking to Diana, discovering multifamily, and, you know, even my young son looking for his first home with his wife, the meaningful nature of what home is and how we provide that is almost like a superpower. I mean, you and I build spaces where people come, rest their head at night, they feel safe, they build a life and build a family, and we may never meet them.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is what I am put on this planet to do. I know that sounds a little, like Robin says, crazy sauce, but it was almost like I had an epiphany when I sat with Diana that day and we talked about what she did, and I thought, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? Oh, you're so sweet. Anyway, it was heartfelt.
Biz on the ones and twos.
Authentic.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I would be honored to be a part of anything like that. I mean, that is truly awesome, you know. And same thing that you kind of touched on it earlier too as well, like when you were talking about, was a thought I had when you were talking about therapy and all these kids in therapy and stuff.
Hey, therapy works, and I'm a fan of therapy.
No, but like, you know what? Like, I think that's important for people to hear. You know, we both kind of touched on this at different points. Like, no matter how low either of us started out or the journey to get to where we are, you CEO, me a partner, you know, in a company and being a part of big things, like, do you still feel like you've achieved like what you want to achieve? Like, I know I don't. Like, I still feel like there's a huge part missing, and like, I'm still, you know, it's still a 24/7. Like, I bang my head on the wall. Like, damn, I didn't do enough. Like, holy shit, I could have done so much more today. Why did I spend 20 minutes on Facebook?
Day.
Yeah,
every day.
Every day. It's
every
like,
day.
Why did I spend all this time doing this? Like, but like, that's a common feeling. But like, you know, I was really, you know, like, I challenged myself. I don't know if you know this about me, but like, I bombed our business exchange last year. You
did not. I don't believe that for a minute.
I absolutely did. I did.
Okay, define bombed.
Bombed. Okay. I had 2 minutes. We should have had a company video thing that played behind here.
Right.
I'm thinking going into this, like I get told like it's your year to go up and talk. At the time I'd been with the company like 15, 16 years. They're like, you got to go talk for 2 minutes at the Business Exchange. We're a sponsor. Give a 2-minute spiel about the company you have worked with and for and are part of for 15, 16 years. And do that for 2 minutes.
No pressure.
In front of all your peers, all your clients, your fellow employees.
No pressure, yeah.
And get up on a big ass stage in front of like, I don't know, at least 1,000 people, probably more. And you're in front of a podium with a spotlight on you and speak about it intelligently for 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes.
Wow.
And I'm like,
Well,
okay, I do the podcast every week. I can
do 2 minutes.
I can do 2 minutes and I'm going to tell this joke and I'm going to do this. Well, as I'm walking to the stage for our turn and I'm watching the first 3 or 4 go up and like, they all have videos that look like commercials I could see on TV. We don't have shit. It's just going to say Element Enterprises behind me. Epic fail. We're correcting that, by the way. But that's going on. Now I've got to talk for 2 minutes. And as I'm walking up, I'm like, this joke is a really bad idea. Like, I can't tell this joke to like kick off, like starting this, like, I don't feel like this is going to be met with enthusiasm or laughter. Like, I got to kill this.
Stand-up stuff. I mean, more power to you.
You know, and it's easy when, like, you don't know what your audience is right now. Like, they're watching us.
These are your people.
We're live. These are my people. They can call bullshit. They can say, like, that guy's full of shit, or that's not real. That's not true.
Right.
What, you know, whatever. Like, and then all that stuff starts going through your head.
Right.
And I literally got up and like, yep, I'm Garrett Reed from Element Enterprises. You all know me. And I'd be happy to help any of you that I don't currently work with. And yeah, I'll be coming around to see you. And like, exit stage left. And like, I mean, I maybe talked for like, we'll say 30 seconds generously. And I was sweating bullets. And I was like, never again. That's never happened again.
That's a little stressful, though. I mean,
so I signed myself up, and I've learned, and like I'm working on, like, I'm actually going to do some public speaking. Have you thought about doing that? Like, I know you talked about some other things, and I've heard you mention things like, did you see the email from TAA the other day? Like, I think it was on Tuesday.
I don't think I read that. What did the email say?
Oh, I'm going to pull this up real quick because I think this is a good transition, because I think there are people in our industry that see this stuff and like, this is the stuff we talk about. Like, this is stuff we see. So like, yeah, Tuesday, July 30th, call for presentations, the one conference.
Oh, wow.
Do you have innovative ideas that you want to share them with a statewide audience? The stage is yours. Applications are now open for TAA One Conference. Call for presentations. And there's more to this. That's the Cliff Note version. But like, we have till August 30th. And I think I'm going to find a way to do this. But like, I'm kind of throwing out a challenge to you too, like, because I think I would show up at the TAA One Conference to hear you speak.
Wow.
Like, I think
I thought you were going to
should
say,
do this.
You want to do it together?
I'm down for that too.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, I've never done any public speaking. I think everybody has
It's the number one fear.
It is. I think you and I have a story to tell. I think many people probably listening and watching probably have a story to tell. I mean, I will leave it up to your audience if they have enjoyed today and they think I would be a good
I
good speaker.
think that's,
I would be happy to have a conversation. It's nothing I'm trained in.
Yeah.
I'm not as good as like, you are at
think about the things. Thank you. That's a huge compliment. But like, think about when we go to these things, like, honestly, as a vendor / rep, do you go to all the education conference stuff when you go to like TAA?
And I want to be always honest.
I don't.
Always honest and transparent, because you know that about me.
Yeah.
This last TAA was my first. So I did not go. I was so worried about my booth and how it looked, and did I meet the right people?
Yeah.
And Diana was a great mentor, and I did meet a lot of the right people. I think I would like to go to some of the, I am passionately curious, as you and I talked about. I'm going to go next year. Let's challenge each other. If you speak, I'll go to yours. And if I speak, would you go to mine?
Absolutely. 100%. You know, that's one of the things that hit me when I did. So I did Jason Redmond's Eagle Rise Summit. I put myself in a situation where I was highly, highly uncomfortable. And now I have all this support behind me of people trying to encourage me to take that further. And I'm working on it. But
I do think you have some great things to say.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, I would not have come if you didn't.
Yeah.
I think we can always learn from each other. I mean, that's part of the reason I'm here, is to learn from you. And I think from an industry perspective, sometimes it's good to hear from the other side. And what I mean by that is, you know, you mentioned early in our conversation, I think many times contractors and designers are at odds, and I don't think it has to be that way.
It shouldn't be.
And I work really hard to make sure that doesn't happen. I like to think of myself as the contractor's designer, that, you know, let's walk a mile in each other's shoes, and let's help each other get to next and be successful.
Yeah.
I think there could be more of that type of learning and dialogue. And, you know, I don't know how you and I make that happen, but I think today's a good start.
Yeah.
You know? And I think we can help each other be more successful and understand the importance of our industry and what's special about it, the integrity of our industry, and what we talked about earlier. You know, does anybody know the statistics? I think it's 7,000 people are in apartment homes because of what we do. I think it's a pretty close statistic, if not dead on. And, you know, we influence the lives of so many. I think we should take what we do pretty seriously, actually, and get better at it and invest in it. And I do think TAA does a great job of that.
How do you think, you know, this is one of the big things I'm harping on. This is kind of like where my public speaking is going in an avenue. It kind of boils down to communication and relationship building. How do you look at your style of communication, and what do you focus on to communicate and build relationships? Because that's huge in what we do, whether you're the CEO or I'm sales and business development. You know, how we communicate, I mean, dictates everything. And I think there's a huge opportunity, and that's why I'm going to speak on it, because I think that's one of the missing pieces. Technology has advanced so far. I mean, we used to ask for like the 100-foot phone cord so we could like take the phone into our room and have a private phone conversation. Because we didn't have cordless phones. We couldn't just send a text message.
I had the donut phone. Did you have the?
Pretty
great, right?
Or the fact that like when we had email at first, it was the dial-up, put the disc in, wait forever. Like email wasn't like instantaneous.
Ooh,
like,
do you remember the first fax? Yeah. Pretty
that
special
stuff. Like, you know, but like your kids don't understand that. Like,
that's
you know,
true.
it's like my buddy that was over this weekend, his kids that are like, I'm going to say 6 and 10, roughly, you know, and like they showed them a cassette tape where they made each other a mixtape. And they're like, what machine does that go in? How do you rewind?
Okay, that's tape? Greatness. I'm sorry, that is awesome.
Yeah, and it's like, holy shit. We're not talking about making 6-track jokes, you know, or like, you know, any of that stuff, or even vinyl jokes, you know, like, or Atari jokes, you know, like it's kind of how things evolve. But
okay, pause for a moment. That is greatness, because at the TAA show, our theme was amenity space, not just fun and games. And we had a tabletop Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man and the Galaxia, and it had fun and games. That was the highlight of our booth. But anyway,
that's awesome. But, you know, that's how I think communication is evolving. And, you know, like without even getting and jumping to like AI and the usage of that kind of stuff, we are the most technologically advanced civilization known to man currently. Mm-hmm. How much of communication is being lost because it's so easy? Because, like, you know, I talk about this all the time, and it's something that like really bothers me. Like, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at this. Like, I still have to catch myself at times doing this and go, bad move. Don't do that again. But how much tone or inflection is lost in an email or text? Like, where are kids being coached? Because they live on that shit. It is text message, Snapchat,
right?
All these things, like boom, 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 boom. Mm-hmm. And like, man, what if there's kind of a problem, or you're dealing with a problem and you choose poorly instead of picking up the phone and having the tough conversation with said person, whether that's your significant other, a client, or whomever? Instead of picking up the phone, you shoot off that email or that text. How many of you are like Nobel Prize winners in literature and can like make sure that your tone is as intended in that text or email?
Right.
I'm betting slim to none. But you forget about that, but it's the quick and easy thing to do. So many people are losing that personal touch, that connection of pick up the damn phone and call me. Like, or you also have these cool things called voice text messages where you like, if you thought your text message might be perceived wrong or come across wrong, or that it doesn't have
it happens
tone,
all the time, right?
why don't you just like do the voice text thing? Like, if maybe you didn't want to interrupt them and you didn't want to call them, why don't you send the voice text?
Right.
Because then they can hear your tone. Was he pissed off? Is he like coming at me?
Yeah.
Is he not? Is she not? You know, like where are we at in this conversation? Like, you leave that out.
Oh yeah.
You're leaving the options for that conversation to go up or really south. And I think that's a huge problem. I don't think this generation
agree more.
Of like younger than us, like, and I forget, like, these generations get so confusing. They have so many weird names and all this stuff, but like, if you were born after 1980, like, this applies to you. Like, you've been in this modern era of stuff.
They call them digital natives. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, these digital natives, like, you need to learn to like that essence of like writing somebody a personal letter, like cursive's gone, like write them a letter. Pick up the phone and have a conversation. Not everything is a text message or an email. Like, learning those things and those skills, like, those generations are so disconnected. They don't know how to do that. Like, I feel like there's a huge opportunity to speak on this with like corporate America and teach these other generations, like, hold up, bad idea, not appropriate time to send a text. Appropriate time to send as a text is you're in the bathroom and your client calls you and you don't want to take the call in the bathroom. You say, can I call you back in 5 minutes?
Right.
That's an appropriate time to send a text message.
Right.
Because you don't have the audacity or the guts to have the difficult conversation, you don't all put that in a text that has no tone, no reflection, and then you get to like play the lotto and see if that's going to be good, bad, indifferent, or blow up on you. That's a bad idea. I wouldn't send that text message or that email. You might want to like take another 5 minutes, let things calm down, and actually pick up the phone and have a conversation like, all right, here's the problem. Here's some solutions. What do we need to do to resolve the problem? Because it's all about solving people's problems at the end of the day, right?
Well, I think that's what you and I do for a living.
I think that's what 90% of America does. If they're doing anything successful, they're solving other people's problems to one extent or another.
Agreed. I think you just touched on something. You know, what you described as a problem.
Yeah.
But what are you and I doing to fix that? Are we mentoring somebody?
I hope we are.
I mean, I hope we are. So, okay, challenge to those listening. If you're not mentoring someone, you should be. And you should be calling them out on exactly what you just said. And we should practice with that younger generation and really give them an opportunity to engage differently.
Yeah.
Because if they don't learn those skills from us, they're not going to.
Yeah, you know, my buddy, I
think you hit on something. I think that, I mean, and look, you and I have both done it. You've read something, somebody texted and you're like,
and you
can't
instantly
believe that
fired
you just
back.
said that. You know.
Bam, send it, fired.
We've all done it.
Engage.
Guilty.
War activated. I mean, we've all done it.
Shots fired.
Yeah, shots fired. I mean, you know, me and my buddy Kenny Mitchell, we talk about this all the time. And he runs this amazing organization called Operation Yellow Tape. So I will encourage, too, this is unsolicited, free advice for any of my friends that are first responders, police, firefighters, nurses, any of you, first responders. Operation Yellow Tape is badass. There's a lot of stuff that you guys go through in your day-to-day jobs, even military. I highly recommend you get involved with something like that because there's a lot of things you guys, I feel like, don't know how to process, or you feel like you're the only one there, and like maybe you need something like that. You know, Kenny really tries to rate that. I mean, Kenny is going to come on the podcast at some time, and I don't want to take away from his story, but like, people care about you. And if you are struggling, it is not a weakness. We've touched on therapy and stuff like that. It's not a weakness that you need therapy or that
Not at all.
You should have some guidance. Or
I mean, you pick up the phone and you call a friend is what I always call it.
Yeah,
I mean, be a friend and
call somebody. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're somebody that is really, and I don't care, you don't have to be a first responder. If you're struggling with something, I promise you the world is better with you in it. And,
agreed.
And people need to know that and like reach out to someone. I mean, like, have a conversation. Tell them you're struggling. We all struggle. As successful as you think either one of us are, you've heard both of us talk about it tonight of like, I beat my head against the wall regularly. I do not always communicate with my wife to the degree I should, you know, because there's certain things as a man, I feel like that's my burden to carry. I don't want her to worry about that. Is that right or wrong that I did or did not have that discussion? To be determined, you know, like, but we all could be better at these things, and we all need somebody to talk to about these things. Like, and
there's a vulnerability to what you just said that I think in particular many times successful people struggle with, and particularly, you know,
I'm too big to reach out. I can't share this problem.
There's a vulnerability where, you know, and the great thing about, you know, buying the business from Diana, even last night I called her and I said, look, I had a really rough day. I need to ask you, what would you have done in this particular instance? And, you know, really good advice, but everybody...
But you had to reach out to the person.
You have to be vulnerable to do that. You and you know what? You have to put your guard down, and you have to just you have to kind of say, okay, you know. But you remember phone a friend. I mean, I am so blessed with an incredible network of business owners, people like yourself, people that I can call and go, okay, has this happened to you? What would you do? You know, if you've got to let an employee go, worst thing ever. Yeah. I mean, horrible, sucks.
Firing somebody that even deserves to be fired is horrible.
It's painful.
It's painful. Horrible.
Worst thing ever. I hate it with a passion. But you know, look, there are weeks that you're like, you know, things can get better. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And there are weeks that you're like, oh my gosh, why am I here?
Yeah, what am I doing?
I'm so undeserving. What am I doing?
What am I doing with my life?
And, you know, everybody has an imposter, you know, that imposter
But so many people
syndrome,
think that we don't. That just because you made it to whatever plateau you have put said person on, doesn't mean that they don't still have these battles and that this isn't part of the journey.
And that's the human condition. I mean, that's the journey, right?
That's being real. That's having these conversations.
It's true. You speak truth.
I try. Like, you know, that's what I think needs to be relayed more. And that's why I hate the news. Like, I hate media with a passion, although I'm contributing to media, because like, I think this kind of shit needs to get out.
But
like,
you know what I love?
What's that?
A conversation.
Yes, everybody does. But like, I also want people to know, like, if you don't feel like you should be in the room, put yourself in the room. If you don't feel like you're deserving or that you have something, like, I battled this when I got challenged with doing my TED Talk at Jason Redman's Eagle Rise event. All these people had amazing stories and had major shit happen to them. I'm like, I wasn't a Navy SEAL. I wasn't a airborne ranger. I wasn't, you know, this firefighter at 9/11 that, you know, I mean, like, I don't have some amazing, but I do have a fucking story. I still have a story.
You have a great story.
And but like everybody does, but like so many people are scared of that. Like, I still battle this, like, honestly, 100%, like, thinking about doing some of these speaking engagements I've been asked to do. Kenny challenged me to speak at his Operation Yellow Tape in 2025.
Awesome.
I'm nervous as shit, and it's a
You're
year
gonna-
away.
you're gonna nail
year
it.
and a half
Yeah,
away.
you're
But
gonna
like,
nail it.
that's real talk, though.
Yeah.
Like, I still question, am I...
But you know what? As your friend, I would
Yeah.
be worried about you if you weren't worried. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not real. That's not who you are.
Yeah,
I mean,
but you know what I mean? So many people don't have these real conversations. Like, I'm challenging all of you to have these type of conversations, because you're going to find out at the end of the day that, like, what you think is your biggest problem, and if you actually talk to somebody, you're going to find out, like, this shit is way worse somewhere else. Or
True that.
somebody else's
Yeah.
shit is way worse. Like, you think your shit is so bad, I promise you, there are 1,000 people that their shit is way worse than your shit. And maybe just because you started that conversation, all of a sudden you're like, yeah, man, like, I'm really being a jackass. Like, me over here, like, worrying about this shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of petty in the big picture, but like, have the conversation, like, call somebody. Because like, people, I don't care who you are, where you are, what you are, people do still care.
well, and you touched on something just then, and I think you and I share this. Just having a heart of gratitude and seeing things with, you know, a lens of humility
Yeah.
is huge. And I think, you know, just starting from a place of gratitude and just what you said, we've got
Yeah.
it so much better than the majority of the world. And I
Absolutely.
mean, we're sitting here talking at this in
First
this amazing
world problems.
First world problems. You know, I mean, I'm worried that my Starbucks got cold. You know,
Yeah.
come on. I mean, perspective, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe what I got out of tonight, you know, in our time together is just, you know, you really have always had a heart of gratitude with what you bring to the table. I did my homework. You told me to watch your podcast. You know, you're always very grateful for the people that come on, grateful for your friendships, grateful for where you are in your walk, and I appreciate and admire that about you.
Thank you. I mean, I've said this many times, like, this show still doesn't make any money. Like, we're not sponsored. We don't have all this stuff. Like, I wouldn't trade this for the world. The last 2 years of doing this, because of the conversations that I've had with people, the relationships I've built with people. And, you know, at the end of the day, like, if that's all that I got out of this, that was worth every penny.
Right.
You know, like, I get to do that. Like, and it's still fun. To me, this is what I wish I had, because, like, you struggle. Like, how many books about quotes and self-help and all this other shit can you read and go like, still doesn't apply to my life? Like, sounds great. Yep. Hoorah. I'm in for, like, right now. And then the shit fizzles. Like, I want to hear about, like, I want to be able to go find, like, I hope people, like, search this and go like, I want to be an interior designer. Okay, cool. Come hear Robin's story. Like, yeah, there were hurdles and there were different things, and like, you just bought your own company a year ago.
Still seems
It still
not
seems
real.
super fresh
Super
and not
surreal.
real. And, you know, without putting dates and numbers on things, but I mean, like, you've had a whole career that's been pretty damn successful up to this. Like, is this the pinnacle? Is this the end? I don't think so.
I have to laugh about that because I have a friend who was from my former role. And when I called her and told her, I said, hey, Mary, I bought my own interior design business. There was this long pause. And she goes,
Oh, shit.
She goes, why would you want to do that at your age? I said, Mary, how old do you think I am?
Yeah.
And, you know, there is a design proverb. It's a Chinese proverb. And it is man. Let me get it because there's a translation. And it is house done, man dead. Now think about that for a minute. It means you're never done building. And so that's relative to you, my friend. House done, man dead. Meaning you're never done building until you're not on this planet. Okay? So we're never done. Okay?
I'm going back. I was going to totally leave this out. And I know we have to cut this off. And like, but we're going to do one of these from your place. And we're going to like run this back as like an episode, like another like follow up. And we're going to do it from your
Great.
studio and rock that.
You're on.
But something else I liked about you is I know you're a Zig Ziglar fan, as am I. And I'm going to put
Meet
you
you
on
at the top.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
All right.
What's your favorite Zig Ziglar quote?
Oh, wow, that's tough. Just for the record, as Bill Rogers' daughter, coach's daughter, I was raised at the feet of Zig Ziglar. And I had the privilege of knowing him in the Redhead personally at Prestonwood Baptist Church.
Awesome.
And being in his class, the Challengers class, occasionally. What a blessing. Huge.
Yes, that's
okay. So
amazing.
After much consideration, not relative to you, but perhaps relative to me, I need a checkup from the neck up.
All right, my favorite.
When I'm having a bad day, that goes through my head.
Yeah.
I need a checkup from the neck up.
And my favorite Zig Ziglar quote is, to see if I can do this without butchering it. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
I love that one. Okay. That's so good. I love it.
That's my favorite one.
I'm taking that one with me today.
Yeah. So, all right. So, Common Sense Podcast. Now you get to do our famous ending. And she's watched, so I feel like she's prepped for this.
I don't know. Am I ready?
We'll see if she's ready.
Okay.
All right. First question to end the show.
Go right ahead.
Common Sense Podcast.
Okay.
If you could only leave your sons with one piece of advice, what would that be, Robin?
Love first. Always love first.
All right. That's a first on this show, I think, in 2 years, right, Biz?
Yes,
I mean,
I'm sitting there, I'm watching the, what's the name? What do you call that thing? I have to watch it through the subtitles or whatever. Like, we've never had that before.
yeah, I don't think we've ever had that in 2 years. Like, I like that. All right.
I changed mine, but anyway, after our dialogue,
She prepared.
I did.
I'm telling you.
It's different. Love
She was
first.
like calling me the other day, and she's like, "Are you gonna send me some questions?"
I didn't want to disappoint
She did
you.
her homework.
I'm gonna
I
wear.
didn't-
I'm gonna
homework.
wear something to stand out. I'm gonna have some color. I'm like, do you, girl? Because like when I do my show, fuck multifamily. Fuck all.
Who's the guy you had on with the
It's
tropical
me.
shirt? I was like, I'm gonna the guy. Let's see, what was his
Who had
Panda?
tropical-
Panda had on a
Oh,
tropical
Panda.
shirt.
Oh,
And I
you
said,
watched-
I'm channeling Panda
Wait,
tonight.
so the episode you chose to watch
I
was
watched multiple.
All right.
I watched
So
multiple
was
episodes.
Panda?
One of them.
Oh my
Yeah.
God! I see. This will be on the next show, like, because I want to ask her what she thought about that.
Hey,
like,
I care about you. I cared enough to
no,
watch.
thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
awesome.
Well, you know she's cool if Don Brooks says she's cool.
Thanks,
Don
Don.
Brooks.
Don
like,
said-
I don't know
yeah.
Don, but I love Don.
Don.
Whatever.
No, we don't
That's
love
great.
Don. He wants to come up in here looking like RoboCop the one day he wears his uniform. Wants to come in here all high and mighty. All right, back to it, because I really want to ask you this question.
Okay.
And I'm really, I want you to go where you did not plan to go.
Okay. Unprepped. Go.
Unprepped.
Fresh. Yeah.
So it's common sense.
Yes.
And the reason I called it common sense was because I feel like a lot of people lack common sense. But
Agreed.
I feel like, you know, to have common sense, you got to kind of be well-rounded. And you probably came in here thinking that, like, I'm going to be asked certain questions and certain things are going to go a certain way, but maybe there's something I didn't ask you, or maybe there's something I kind of touched on when I was probably rudely interrupting you or trying to, like, make sure I got another question.
Say that.
What's something that's still weighing on you that maybe there was like something you wanted to say coming into tonight, or maybe something that you didn't get to say that like that was like at the like forefront of your mind? Like,
Okay.
give us Robin's 2 cents.
Wow. I think everyone is unique, and I would probably have asked me, you know, what makes you unique? And I would say, you know, my Robinism would be that
This better have sauce in it.
you trumped me. What did you just do? What? No matter what you do, make sure that you have your own recipe for secret sauce. And that's because everything has sauce. You have to ask my employees.
I know.
I walked in the other day and Rhea, you know, who's from Kosovo, she's got this great accent. And I said, and Rhea, what do we call that? She goes, sexy sauce. I said, that's right. So, you know, there's secret sauce, there's awesome sauce.
I mean, I love
So just whatever you're doing, make sure it's got sauce.
I loved writing your like promo for the show. I was like, I gotta like use awesome sauce because like Robin would so say this.
I know,
like,
you
yes,
trumped
I gotta
me.
just.
But you know, your life should have awesome sauce, and if it doesn't, go get some.
Or
you
for my
know?
wife, she likes Mark Sharon sauce. I mean,
Hey,
like,
sauce makes life worthwhile. You need some
I
sauce.
agree, 1000%.
You need some sauce,
makes life
okay?
worthwhile, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this show greatly. We'll be back next week on Thursday with another great show for you guys. Please give my girl Robin some love. I hope you guys will share this. I'm sure a lot of your friends could enjoy this show. So please give it a share, a like, and we'll see you next week. Peace.